Ah, retirement. The concept that feels about as elusive to millennials as those houses that we could buy with avocados. But what if retirement wasn't so out of reach? And in fact, what if I told you that you could not only retire, but you could retire early? I know, some groundbreaking shit right there. Hi friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. If you're new here, my name is Lexa, and today we are talking about retiring early. There's an entire group of people out there on the internet who all come together with one main goal, which is retire as soon as possible. This is very often referred to as the FIRE movement, or financial independence, retire early. And in this video, we're gonna break down all of the principles and what it actually takes for you to retire early. But of course, before we get started, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps boost this video to the top. That way more people can find this content. Also, I have a big goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers by the end of May. I honestly thought this was like kind of out of reach, but we've had a ton of new people here, so hello, welcome. I am so excited. If you want to learn more about saving, investing, paying off debt, and how to finally feel more confident with your money, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Also, push that notification bell, that way you never miss an upload. And let's go ahead and get into it. A big shout out to 2 Cents for inspiring this video. I will leave their version of Can You Retire Early down below. Like I said, the concept of retiring early has been made very popular by the FIRE movement. It started with the financial independence movement and the retiring early movement coming together. If you don't already know, TikTok is my jam, and TikTok and YouTube have tons of people who talk about and give updates on their FIRE plan. And of course, there are tons of people who are also claiming that they can teach you how to retire at 50, 40, or even 30. So let's go ahead and evaluate what this is all about, if it's realistic, and how you could get there. So really, there are 3 main pillars of the FIRE movement: frugality, investing, and the 4% rule. The 4% rule was made popular by a study that showed that if you only take out 4% of your total investments every year, you could live on just those investments for pretty much forever. So many people, when they are coming up with their FIRE number, their financial independence number, they take that 4% rule into account. So for example, if you wanted to retire and live off $40,000 a year, you would need to have about $1 million in investments. And if you plan on retiring early, that means you have to save a hell of a lot of money. And let's be honest here, most people don't even know how they are going to manage to save the recommended like 10 to 15% of their salary. Nonetheless, saving 50 to 90% of their salary, which is very common in the FIRE movement. Of course, in order to do that, you would either need to make a lot more money or spend a lot less money. But for many people in the FIRE movement, retiring early is the #1 goal. So they're willing to give up a lot of those extra things in order to put as much money as possible toward their investment goals. And the big thing that this means is avoiding lifestyle inflation, which is what often happens when we make more money and therefore we start spending more money. And on top of that, they find very creative ways to slash their spending. But if retiring on a beach in Costa Rica at 30 sounds like the dream, and you are willing to give up a lot of those extras for a short period of time in order to meet those goals, here are the questions that you need to ask yourself. First off, where are you going to keep this money? You don't want to keep it in a savings account, even a high yield savings account, because the interest does not compete with inflation. Instead, you want to invest this money inside of the market. In order to build wealth, you have to invest your money in order to compete with inflation, because if not, you're losing money. Here's an example. Assuming that inflation is around 2% and you're getting 1% out of your high yield savings account, which by the way, right now is like unheard of. Most high yield savings accounts are actually around like 0.4 to 0.5%. You would be losing 1% each year. And that's okay for your short-term money goals that you know that you're gonna need that cash on hand, but that is not ideal for long-term wealth building. So instead, if inflation is still at 2%, but you have invested that money and you are seeing an average rate of a 9% return. With inflation factored in, you are making about 7% on that money every year, and that's going to continue to compound over time. And speaking of compounding, If you want to retire early, or just in general at all, you need to make best friends with compound interest. And basically this just means earning interest on your interest. If you want to know more about that, or if you're like completely lost with these terms, definitely check out my Investing 101 video. I will link it up here and also in my bio down below. And of course, whenever you are looking at compound interest, you want to make sure the numbers that you're using to estimate your returns are realistic. So of course, nothing with investing is guaranteed, but if you are investing inside of total market index funds, inside of a tax advantaged account, you are going to see about an 8 to 10% return on your investments on average across many years. If you have more questions about like what that actually looks like, I will link the video that I did on investing inside of index funds, how much you need and where to invest up here, and then again also in the description box down below. The second question that you have to ask yourself is, how do you know when you've actually reached financial independence? And again, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, your financial independence number is determined by the 4% rule. It's also sometimes referred to as the rule of 25. And again, that just means that you are living off of 4% or less of your combined total savings. And the reason that it's also called the rule of 25 is because to get this number, you just take your expected annual expenses times 25. That is your financial independence goal number. Now that you know that you need to invest your money and you know how much you're going to need, how are you going to manage to retire early and get to that number as quickly as possible? To make this easy, let's go ahead and use me as an example. I'm 25 years old. I make about $65,000 post-tax per year, but to be honest, I live off of about $30,000 a year. So if I wanted to maintain this same lifestyle, which would probably look like retiring, but also being frugal while I retired, not going on lavish vacations all of the time, but continuing to spend around $30,000 a year, I would need about $750,000 at retirement. To make this as easy as possible, we're gonna make some big assumptions here. The main one being that I could invest all of that extra money that I am making but not spending. Again, keep in mind, this is way oversimplification for demonstration purposes. That would mean that I could invest around $35 a year, or an average of $3,000 a month. If that were the case, I could retire in about 13 years, which would mean that I would retire early at age 38. Now, obviously, that is a shit ton of money to be saving every year, and it's probably not realistic for me to assume that I could invest all of that extra money. There are other expenses, there are other savings goals that I have. But the idea here is that I would try to cut back on as much as possible to increase that gap between my income and my spending. This way, I could consistently invest as much as possible into the market and let that money grow. Now, of course, your numbers are going to vary depending on your circumstance, but if you're just kind of curious what that might look like for you, I will link the resources that I use down below. So that is it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed or learned something cool. If you did, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps boost this video to the top. That way more people can find this content. And I will see you all next time. Bye.